Hi everyone, this is Colleen, and this is Wednesday, August 3rd, 2016, and this is Haggie Reads for you on Haggie Shack Radio at haggieshack.com, simulcast to Wolf Spirit Radio. And today, I'm gonna pick up where I left off last week with the children of the Law of One, The Lost Teachings of Atlantis, by John Peniel. Problems with partners of different consciousness levels. But with such fragmentation, how can anyone ever hope to find their soulmates and return to harmony with them, since they are all likely to be at different levels of consciousness? You have two questions there. Sometimes people will be already living with their soulmate, usually unknowingly, and it is the worst relationship they ever had. This is due to a couple of things. For one, they have strong internal bonds and karmic ties that draw them together. But remember, these people who were once a harmonious soulmate group separated from God, and then from each other in selfishness. They thus had strongly opposing feelings and attitudes, and thus took opposing directions in life. So when soulmates get back together because of karma, rather than because they have both evolved and become more loving, higher consciousness beings, the sparks of conflict can really fly. But even though this is often an intense and very upsetting type of relationship, it can sometimes be a good scenario for growth. Such a relationship is full of turmoil, as each person is forced to constantly battle with each other's and their own egos and selfishness. The growth can come from transcending the turmoil, facing yourself honestly, and using the mirror that your partner shoves in your face as a guide for changing yourself. But often, such undeveloped soulmates can't take the heat of the relationship and will break up with worse karma between them than they ever had before. If partners who find themselves in a soulmate relationship are at similar levels of consciousness, but not really the same level, they can either grow together or keep each other down. But if one partner is of a higher state or growing faster, they may need to separate if the other partner refuses to catch up or keep pace. Unfortunately, in most relationships, soulmate or not, one partner will advance on their spiritual path beyond the other partner. It is very, very rare that two people move at the same pace in the same direction, even those who have shared spiritual paths. This leaves the other bewildered and usually hostile, and can often result in harmful attempts to manipulate the higher consciousness partner and keep them down spiritually. Often, because of the natural receptivity and sensitivity of the female principle, female soulmates learn their karmic lessons sooner than their male counterpart. They also find it easier to be humble and receptive with a true teacher than does a male principle. There are exceptions, of course, but there are many women on spiritual paths that have no spiritual equal or spiritual better male counterpart in their life. Sometimes it's just because they don't really want that, and all the real final changes that it would entail for them. But other times, it's just that there isn't anyone around. This presents a great problem because of the following prerequisite of the path. Just as Eve left and Adam followed to get back, Adam must first return. Then Eve will have the opportunity to go with him also. Fortunately, universal law provides a solution in such cases. If Adam does not return first, Eve can find another Adam if she wishes to. Unfortunately for the men, the burden is on the men to surrender to the universal spirit first, before their soulmates, or they leave no viable alternative to their female counterparts. This is not as bad as it may sound, though, for at those levels of consciousness, we achieve the primary perfect male and female archetype again, and it is just as totally satisfying and comfortable for the female to be with a new soulmate as the old, as long as the old soulmate has not achieved enlightenment and is being rejected. So can higher consciousness women help the man they are with raise their consciousness so they can be with them in harmony? Many women attempt to change and improve their men. I've never seen it work, nor do I know anyone who has. For whatever reason, it seems that men must either learn from the school of hard knocks or a true teacher. It is part of their false male ego. They refuse to truly grow or accept their female soulmates as their teacher, let alone equal. It could be that a woman might just happen to start teaching a man at the same time he has actually decided to change on his own, and it might work out. Or they think that they're teaching one, but it ultimately breaks down or is a false teaching. But from everything I've seen and know of, they cannot truly make a man seek the light or serve the universal will, and attempting to do so, even if temporary results seem to be achieved, will only fail and impair the woman's own development. But like I said, it's very fortunate for the female that she can find a new soulmate that is just as fulfilling, just as real as the original, should the original fail to achieve their enlightenment. Real romance, dating with your soulmate. So, Father, bottom line, as far as soulmates go, we're all just up a creek without a paddle for the most part? Oh, not at all. But for soulmates to harmoniously reunite, it requires both the male and female elements to truly want God, so to speak, to be receptive to the universal spirit and universal will. The male soulmate is the first to change his polarity and become receptive to the universal. It's like he needs to traditionally marry, love, serve, and obey, etc. But it is the universal spirit he must do this with, and have nothing else more dominant in his life. A man who has done this can remain one with the universal will and consciousness, regardless of whether his soulmates are with him. And this allows him to be able to wait for his soulmate to appear in his life. And when she shows up, or is already in his life, if she is of lower consciousness, he can patiently wait, or help her catch up to him, while he still remains in the universal flow, and thus her negativity or lower consciousness cannot throw him off. It also allows him to become the soulmate of a woman who has no hope of retrieving her original soulmate, either because he has gone on to higher planes already, or because her original soulmate is of lower consciousness. If a woman has realized she must return to the universal spirit, and her soulmate has not, she may jump soul groups and find another male who she has an affinity with, and who is appropriately spiritually oriented. This new male will become her new soulmate. This may seem disappointing. It is not really, and is far better than the alternative. The new soulmate is just as valid as the original, and there is just as much love. It can also be possible that a soulmate has evolved more rapidly and already left the earth plane. In the case of a man whose soulmate has already gone on, it's too late. But, as mentioned above, another woman who is without her original soulmate may jump to another enlightened man and become his soulmate. This is not allowed to be an enlightened man's choice, though, nor would he want it to be if he were enlightened. It's only the female who is allowed to choose who to attach to. When polarities are functioning in their proper order, in harmony with universal flow, just as the planets choose what sun they orbit, also, in the case of a woman whose original soulmate has already gone on, choose a new soulmate. But in both cases, a man or woman may rejoin their original soulmates after leaving the earth plane, although it is unlikely to happen, because usually by that time, it isn't desired anymore. They are just as harmonious and happy with the new soulmate situation. The right kind of soulmate, rejoining, is something I have dreamed of since I was a child, Father. And while I have finally let go of my desires and am totally focusing on serving the universal spirit, it still seems like a wondrous thing. Peniel, it will come to you. I've seen it, and you are right. When soulmates join in higher consciousness, it is a time to rejoice. It is also a beautiful thing to behold, for it changes and expands the nature of their whole beingness together, like two or more caterpillars going into a cocoon and emerging as one incredible butterfly. The male and female elements combine all their individual gifts and traits. But, as in procreation, the sum of this union is greater than just the total of the two. Much more is created from the interplay of their combined energies. Thus, aspects of a new being are created. The soulmate elements function together as one, a psychically bonded team working toward the same goal. One final thing to think about. We can have more than one original soulmate. Contemplate it. Think about why. I am through for now. I have other work I must do. Thank you, Father. Chapter 21. Earth Changes and You. Man will battle man, some for freedom, some for power, some for hate, some for food. A day will come that need not be, that may not be. But if great be the battles, great mushrooms will be there, that burn, then freeze, destroying all that I see, or those that are not free. Two people will come from faraway stars, some ones of the light, some sons of the dark and cold. A hand may the ones offer, or watch in sorrow only, remains to see. As free will changes the things that will be, earth there will be, but man may there not. Know that it is written, whatever events free will cause to be, when all is over, those who choose the light will be free from the darkness of night. But remains to see if they will live amongst the stars or live amongst the earth. As was in the dark times of Atlantis, the time will come again. Those of the darkness, those who would enslave, those who thirst for power, will grow in power, controlling communication and education, for all to believe their ways are good. Their true ways they will not show. They come instead as great men, solving problems, created themselves both false and real, to convince all the people that changes must there be. Then will they come to our aid with concepts good, world peace and harmony, but the truth hidden is slavery they sell, which many will buy, their choice bringing hell. As the dark ones take control, nature spins out of control. The universal spirit, acting through nature, becomes the redeemer of those who reject the dark powers. The selfish, evil ways of man, the dark ones and their pawns, in ignoring the universal laws that guide nature and the stars, will cause such great imbalance that stars will fall from the sky. The sky will burn, scorching the evil, turn dark and cold, freezing the evil. The earth will shake, leveling the evil. The oceans will convulse to drown the evil. The earth will open up, swallowing the evil, spewing molten rock to bury the evil. The earth will tip, the mighty oceans will spill to wash the evil away. Great mountains will sink, ocean land will rise on high. One of the things I came across in the great library that were heaviest to my heart at the time were the predictions of earth changes. From the ancient Atlantean you've just read, to the predictions of simple tribal wise men from diverse cultures all over the world. It seems that there is unprecedented agreement. But free will is a modifier of the great earth changes, and people's choices can make worse or make better what will come to pass. But no doubt, if you aren't afraid to open your eyes, you can already see irreversible damage to the earth that must follow the laws of cause and effect. Yet there is more to this than meets the eye. Our own personal free will choices will be the determining factor in our own realities of the kind of future world we would live in. Ecology isn't just about the earth. Many people misunderstand the need for ecological balance. From anti-environmentalists you hear things like, "Forget the owls, save the humans." This kind of thinking comes from the blindness of selfish separate selves. Such people are so deeply enmeshed in their selfish selves that they don't see many important things, including things that they think are separate yet directly impact themselves. They don't see the big picture, that we, all creatures, all things, are part of the great oneness of the universe. They obviously also don't understand that since we are all part of and one with the universe, that we are the universe. And thus all life, all creation, is us too, and just as important and critical to the entire balance of the things in the universe, and in this case, nature. But contrary to the appearances of their pseudo-compassionate statements in support of humans first, they don't care about other humans either. As universal law would have it, their selfish ignorance renders them so short-sighted that they don't even realize this simple equation. If the owls are going, so are they, ultimately. Funny thing is, environmentalism really is a matter of saving the humans too, even more so. Humans are more fragile than many other species. I have absolutely no doubt that the earth is going to change, and quite dramatically. Other than my personal experiences and observation, there is the unprecedented, almost ridiculous quantity of predictions from unrelated cultures the world over, throughout history, and all point approximately to this time period. To anyone with an open mind and the courage to face their fears, and to many scientists trying to be objective, something is very, very off in nature. It is so obvious, and many scientists are trying to warn humanity. But to me, my many personal experiences are the most profound. In my last days, before leaving the monastery, I had 5 days of visions myself. In later days, I've spent time in universities studying people who are having visions, including famous musicians who are having visions of the future and writing about them in their songs. The ironic thing is, regardless of what humankind has done, or does, to the environment, the earth is going to live on. The earth will be okay. What is really in doubt is whether or not it will continue to support human life, or many of the other fragile forms of life that exist right now. True environmentalism is not about saving the earth. It's only about saving life as we know it. And human life is just one of the species of life as we know it, on this one planet, alone. I'm not sure what the current figures are on species extinction. I think I heard a figure of about 180 species a day becoming extinct. Even if it's only one species a week, it means something is very wrong, and that life as we know it is losing its support network. Recent scientific reports talk about the birds, reptiles, and fish being born all over the world without a given sex, will not be able to reproduce. Other studies show a radical decline in human sperm levels. Sure, you can do something about some things, but many people need to open their eyes first, and some need to open their eyes to the fact that some things can be changed, and some have simply gone beyond the cause and effect point of no return. Those who can't see it are simply too afraid to face it. They're cowards. All signs point in the same direction. The ancient Atlantean texts have their own predictions about what will occur regarding Earth changes in the next few years. There are also predictions about socio-economic changes. As I mentioned earlier, they were the heaviest, most frightening things I ever read at the time. Later, I came to realize the benefit, the need. And now, I welcome some of the cleansing earth changes, while I'm still heavy of heart about the suffering that they'll bring. Here are some of my earlier discussions with Zayn. Before I came to the monastery, I read things about what they call coming earth changes. Are there going to be changes on the earth? And if so, what kind of changes? What will they be? It is written. In fact, it is written, and it is written, and it is written. But first, before I tell you any more, keep in mind what you have learned about free will and karma. Some changes are destined because they are past the karmic point of no return. They are simply ripples in the pond of the universal law of cause and effect. But others can still be modified with free will within certain parameters. Coincidentally, if you still believe in coincidence by now, our library is full of ancient prophecies from dozens of unrelated cultures all around the world. Yet they have similar prophecy. They virtually all point to such major changes in the earth around the end of this very century, or just shortly after. And many predict the same things. How can this be that they all agreed when they knew not of each other? The one answer: inner being, inner voice. What are the most common prophecies between these cultures? One of the common threads running through most ancient prophecies is the prediction that earth changes will eliminate about 2/3 of the human population on earth, leaving 1/3 who are purified by the experience, although they will need true teachers at that point. Things have changed since these prophecies were made, and while they may still hold true, there are few free will forks in the road that could alter the course of the future in ways which could eliminate all life on earth, or at least all human life. All life? That's hard to comprehend or accept or bear, I know. But regardless of the extent of which life will be eliminated, the fact is, there will be a great loss of life, both amongst the many life forms and the human. It will be bad enough regardless of the extent. It will be painful to those of us with true compassion, as if it were not painful enough and bad enough already. There will be greater earthquakes than ever recorded or known by modern humans. Volcanoes, land masses sinking and rising. The earth will turn on its axis. There will be waves from the ocean, miles tall. Numerous new plagues and the return of old ones. And such human violence. All these things, each taking their share of the various life forms. Possible occurrences, extra things not necessarily predestined, are asteroid or comet collisions or near misses that still cause great devastation because of their effects. Nuclear war and biological chemical warfare are recent developments that bring the new possibilities, even those beyond the ancient predictions. Knowing this, humankind has never developed a weapon they have not used. But the worst thing, Peniel, is that before the great earth changes occur, we are most likely going to see political changes that will establish a tyrannical world elite. Who will these be? It will be comprised of the reincarnation of the old, but now secret, brotherhood of the Belialians. This will be so powerful that only the universal spirit, through the forces of nature, will be able to destroy it. And the things the Belialians will do will be so terrible that most people will eventually welcome the mass destruction nature delivers as redemption. I was quaking in my robes. Since the days I first laid eyes on him, everything I ever heard from this man's mouth was always absolutely true. And worse, I felt it inside also. And the evidence in the library, at least evidence of predictions, were also overwhelming. So we're pretty much all gonna die, or most of us, and it'll be like a living hell, all in my lifetime. We're all gonna die anyway, are we not, Peniel? Even if none of this comes to pass? So relax, you're gonna die anyway. But I'm not telling you about these changes to inspire fear. When fear dictates our thoughts and actions, it's usually harmful, and more about this on the chapter on the death experience. These changes are simply things that are going to occur, whether we like it or not, whether we believe it or not. But like a harsh winter, it can devastate those not prepared for it. But if you know winter's coming, and it'll be a harsh one, you simply ready yourself. And if you can help your neighbors, that is the greater good. One who has transcended the selfish, separate self doesn't experience fear per se. In time you'll understand. What was once a feeling that caused the self to react irrationally becomes a mere warning mechanism that helps you choose rational action. Fear transmutes into an awareness of potentials of harm or problems, which alerts you to be wary and to take appropriate action. Atlantis Revisited. I understand. It's just that what you're talking about is more than just a bad winter coming up. Of course. But I thought it was a good allegory of sorts, didn't you? Are you saying I give bad allegories? Wait till you are a teacher and you try it. It's harder than you think. You'd probably come up with something about having to use an outhouse like being the inevitable tide of events. He was trying to lighten the mood a bit by joking around with me, but then he continued with the seriousness of the subject and reminded me of the cycles of history. As in Atlantis, we are again in the beginning of a period of radical changes for the Earth and its inhabitants, physically, mentally, and spiritually, the entire threefold nature. Humanity's selfishness has taken its toll and is starting to come back in full fury. With the damage that's been done already, there's no preventing the great Earth changes within the next decade. Given a sufficient raise in consciousness, those things that are not past the karmic point of no return could be altered by free will. However, many are past the point of no return. Ask yourself if the first drops of rain from this great storm of purification have not already begun to fall. There are many things today that are similar to conditions in Atlantis before the great earth changes that destroyed it, including the political powers. The forces of darkness, the sons of Belial, have grown very powerful and seek to enslave the world at any cost. Most people who are not directly sons of Belial are pawns. By virtue of their own selfishness, they unconsciously follow the conscious evil ones. This is no excuse, however, because they chose their unconsciousness. They are but selfish cowards who have willingly participated in the evil that will bring their own destruction. The brave people of this world open their eyes to whatever is happening and refuse to be pawns. Even many of the brave ones are not aligned with the light yet, but at least they've resisted the darkness. These people can save themselves. After they suffer the horrors of what is about to befall the people of the earth, they will have been purified enough, involuntarily as it may seem. And this purification will awaken them to the spirit within and return them to serving the universal will. Then at least some good will come of this. Cosmic maid service or judgment days? Oh, more than some good, Peniel. The coming earth changes are not bad things in and of themselves. They are necessary now. Necessary for a cleanup of both the earth and of humans. All of these things come to pass. We are given the opportunity for transition into a new world of unselfish love and harmony. Some will approach the sufferings of this purification with patience, understanding, and unselfish love. Others will react with selfishness, negativity, and resistance. Universal law dictates that each individual, through their attitude and resultant actions, create and modify their own experiences. Those who love unselfishly will ultimately experience the heaven of that attitude, while those who are negative will ultimately experience the hell brought by that. So it will be like Atlantis all over again? Final than Atlantis. There are some distinct differences between the earth changes of Atlantis's day and what is going to take place now. First, we cannot escape them as the children did and when they fled Atlantis. But also, there are various possibilities for intervention during these great earth changes. It may be that we will even have some outside help. Many things are not determined fully. Free will choices are still dominant, particularly in whether or not there will be nuclear annihilation, which could create a bigger mess if it is more than a very limited warring or act of violence. So is there anything we can do about any of it? Yes and no. We can't stop the purification. It is badly needed anyway, and we shouldn't want to stop it. We shouldn't see it as a bad thing. But can we do anything about it for ourselves to survive it? What for? That's the most important question. Do you want to survive to save your selfish, separate self? Or to help be here to truly free others and point them to the way back to oneness and free them for their selfish, separate selves? But to answer your question directly, yes and no, K-N-O-W. No, to make inner preparations. There are some physical preparations one can make, and perhaps that will be done by you or others. I will not be involved because I'll be gone by then. But think. What good are physical preparations if you don't make the spiritual ones? What's the point? Raise your consciousness first. Then help others do the same if you wish to. There's nothing more to say. I have heard people discuss possible safe areas, places of refuge during the coming changes. I know of many areas that will be more or less free from earthquakes, etc., more or less safe, barring nuclear war and the like. But I tell them what my teacher told me, and his told him, and the ancient teachings told us all. Make your spiritual changes your priority first. Raise your consciousness first. After you've done that, if you still want to pursue safer physical areas, then look for areas where people who have higher consciousness are living. That doesn't mean where the people with the greatest knowledge are, but rather where those with the greatest kindness and harmlessness are. The greater the consciousness concentration in a certain area, the greater the chance of being safe, even on a one-to-one basis. The ground could be falling out from under your neighbor's feet, while under your feet, the ground is lifting you above a flood or tidal wave. Raise your consciousness first, and then it won't even matter what happens to you. He said, we're all gonna die someday anyway. And regardless of how, do you want to be prepared to go on, or be stuck with karma that forces you back to a life on earth over and over again? A life of pain and pleasure, or just possibly pain, on an earth that is very different than what you know now? For one thing, at this time, because of free will factors, we still don't know if the earth is, of the immediate future, will even be inhabitable. But regardless of whether it is or not, the main thing that you can do is become a truly good person, an unselfishly loving person. If there is to be any intervention, the flow, God, hierarchical help, extraterrestrial, or whatever, the humans who have changed to a new vibration, a harmless, caring, unselfishly loving vibration, are the people who will be safe, one way or another. If the earth becomes uninhabitable, or there is not intervention, those who have transcended this plane by becoming unselfishly loving can just go on to a higher plane. And if you were a higher being from outside this plane, intervening and saving people, who would you choose to save? The selfish, who live out of harmony with the universe and nature, or the unselfishly loving, who live in harmony with the rest of the universe. The unselfish ones who are harmless and helpful to all of the universe. Exactly. But many people think they will be saved from the tribulations. Indeed. What a surprise they have in store if they don't change. There are many people out there who are under the delusion that they are going to be saved from facing the trials that are coming for all of us. And they think that they don't need to do anything except perhaps talk about it or believe in this or that. Some think Jesus will save them without them becoming really good people just because they believe in Jesus. Some think aliens will save them. Some think they'll go to the fourth dimension. The biggest hole I see with those hopeful, wishful thinking scenarios is the lack of personal responsibility that they allow for. Some believe that only whatever they think or believe or accept will totally create their reality. So they think that if they don't give energy to earth changes or the coming chaos and destruction, they will not be subject to them, because they did not create them for themselves, so they won't have to experience them. But they take this precept to the extreme, and this precept is only half of a paradox, only partially true. When you meet one of those penile, or when you write in the future, tell those who believe that way that if you really don't believe you can be harmed by earth changes or anything else that you don't allow in your consciousness or draw to yourselves, here's a simple test of how well it works, or how up to the challenge you are. Try this, why don't you? Believe you don't have a car accident. Otherwise, you'll attract one to yourself. If you believe you can have a car accident, then once you get that in your head, I dare you to try driving through red lights all the time. I'm not really recommending or inciting people to do this. I'm trying to make a point with a very real scenario. The fact is, if you drive through intersections against red lights constantly, you are going to suffer the consequences. Whether you believe someone will save you from an accident or not. Don't believe me? See what happens if you're foolish enough to try it. And why wouldn't you try it? Because you know there is likely to be a car coming through the other way, even if you've never seen it, even if you can't see it. The changes that have happened to the earth and are coming back to us from what has been done is just as certain as traffic coming the other way. We're talking about reality here, and universal reality. Our species has been running the red lights of nature. They have run the big red lights and broken universal law. You personally have probably done so also, unless you're already enlightened. Most of the people of the world have run the big red lights, and there simply is no way of escaping the consequences of breaking universal law. Unlike on Earth, with man-made laws, there is ultimate justice in the universe. That is karma. Interestingly enough, when Zayn came to the United States in his later years, he would drive in city traffic as fast as a car would go, through red lights and all, and never had an accident, or even a ticket. Zayn, however, truly understood universal law, was one with universal spirit, and thus he was just part of the universal flow, for real. He didn't just profess or lightly believe in some philosophy or spiritual principle. He had become. Father, why do so many people believe they'll be saved from all these things at the last minute? Quite a lack of logic regarding there being any substance to the various and fantastic theories of unearned salvation, and a preponderance of evidence that we are facing real ecological and socio-political disaster. The illogical salvation theories are what many people desperately want to hear and believe, and so they believe. They buy into this mental, emotional panacea, this religious fire insurance. Why? Why do they close their eyes when opening them is the best chance to get through whatever happens? Simple. Fear and laziness. The selfish, separate self doesn't want to die and let the inner being take its place on the throne, nor does it want to face its karma, or the reality of the karma created by what has been done to the entire earth. So they exhibit the ostrich syndrome. They hide their heads and think they're safe. They do this because they're so full of fear that they don't think objectively or logically. Thus, they are more than happy to accept these unfounded theories of salvation without need for personal purification, enlightenment, or responsibility. Just think for a moment. Why would we deserve such unjustified salvation? Do you really believe the universe works that way? Do you not think there are universal laws that govern the functioning of all things? Do you think you can break those laws and nothing will happen? What alien or higher being, who really is a higher being, is going to save parasites that are so destructive, so disharmonious to nature and universal flow? Parasites? That's what all unenlightened humans are. Destructive, inharmonious parasites. Or like a virus or bacterial infection in the body of the earth. So what if the destructive parasites are ordinary, relatively nice people with good beliefs, even the metaphysical beliefs or religious beliefs, such as many religions have? Do you know what the universal response to that is? So what? If there's going to be any outside help, from the predicted return of the Christ, to the Space Brothers, to whatever, the logic is that they're only going to save those who are truly different than the rest, truly worthy of saving. Meditation is not going to do it for you. And just having a lot of metaphysical knowledge or religious beliefs certainly doesn't make you worth saving. Neither does being a relatively good person. If that's what you think, you have a big and unnecessary shock when the changes come to your door, and you stare death in the face, only to realize you aren't ready when you could have been. He was getting very intense, and a crowd of other students had gathered around by this time. He looked around at them all and pointed. But he was also pointing and speaking to all humanity. Alrighty, I'm going to take a break here, put on a little music, and I'll be back in just a few moments.